Hello, I'm Sandy Horsburgh and I'm the minister here in St Nicholas Buccleuch Parish Church. In my first video, I introduced you to some of the furniture and the layout of the church, so that if you come here, you'll be familiar with what we have. I thought now it might be a good idea to say a little bit about the services that we have. So if you come to St Nicholas Buccleuch, and I very much hope that you will, you'll have some idea before you get here about what goes on. Sometimes people will wonder what they've to wear when they come to church. I'd say, come as you are. Come in whatever you feel comfortable wearing. Some people will dress up to come to church because that's what they like to do. Others wear casual clothes because that's what they're comfortable in. Just come wearing whatever you'd like to wear. Nobody's going to look down on you for dressing up or for dressing down. Nearly every Sunday we have two services here in St Nicholas Buccleuch. The first starts at 9:30 and the second one at 11 o'clock. There's an order of service for both of them, and they're printed in a little leaflet like this. It's the same leaflet usually for both services, so let's have a closer look at it. The first 2 pages cover the 9:30 service and include everything that is to be said by the congregation. It lists the hymns, the readings, where there are prayers during the service, and it always prints out the Lord's Prayer. There are a number of different versions of this, so it's useful to have that printed for anybody who may be unfamiliar with the version we're using. The next pages cover very similar material for the 11 o'clock service. Again, there are hymns and readings, there are responses, and the parts marked in bold italics are the words for the congregation to say. There are also, on this order, marks indicating when the congregation should stand. Those parts are marked with an asterisk. The back page lists the intimations. That's just a churchy word for announcements, but they're an important part of the life of the congregation, and so as well as printing them, I always speak about them during both services. When you arrive at St Nicholas Buccleuch, take a seat anywhere in the congregation. There are no reserved seats, and you're welcome to sit anywhere. So let's imagine you've come for the 9:30 service. That service is usually a bit more informal, and it contains some features that you won't find at the 11 o'clock service. On alternate Sundays, the praise is led by a praise band or by the organist. If you come on a Sunday when the praise band is leading the worship, the words for the hymns will be projected on the screen hung in the chancel. Sometimes people who are unfamiliar with church wonder when they've to stand up and sit down. It's very simple here. Basically, we stand for the hymns or the songs, and we sit for everything else. There is an exception at the 11 o'clock service, when I will invite people to stand to say the creed. Of course, if you don't want to stand, or you have difficulty doing so, please feel free to stay seated for the whole service. One of the features of the 9:30 service, which is perhaps a little unusual, is that instead of a sermon, the congregation splits up into 2 groups to discuss the Bible readings. This is a good idea if you like a more interactive way of approaching studying the Bible. Please feel free to join either of the groups, one over here on the north aisle or the other in the south aisle on the other side of the church. You'll be made welcome in both. You don't, of course, have to say anything in the groups unless you want to. After the group discussions, we come back together to sing the 3rd hymn and to say the second set of prayers. But during the 3rd hymn, the offering is taken up and is placed in this rather fine brass dish, which I then place on top of the organ console. The service ends, as do all services, with the saying of the blessing, for which the congregation stands. Basically, you remain standing after the closing hymn. Perhaps you've decided to come at 11 o'clock. The 11 o'clock service is a more traditional one. The music is always led by the organist, playing either the organ or the piano, and I'll show you the organ and the piano just in a moment. Rather than use the screen, the hymns are always chosen from the church hymnary, this purple book, which you'll find in the back of the seat in front of you. There are 3 different versions, all of them containing the same hymns. The standard one contains just the melody line, like this one. There's a large print edition which doesn't have any music notation, and there's a full music version which contains the harmony parts as well as the melody. You may have seen notice boards up in some other churches displaying the hymn numbers. We don't have that in St Nicholas Buccleuch, but the hymn numbers are always printed on the order of service, and anyway, I announce them so that you can look them up in the hymn book. When the readings are read from the Bible here on the lectern, the person doing the readings always announces the page numbers so that members of the congregation can look them up in the little Bibles which are in the seats alongside the hymn books. Many people, though, prefer just to listen. You're free to do either. The offering is taken up by 2 church members who will go to everybody who's in the church that day. They'll be carrying little bags like this, and people just simply put their offering into it. Some people who have joined the free will offering scheme will use little envelopes, but cash is just fine too. At 11 o'clock, the hymns and the other music are generally played on this fine organ. Occasionally the organist will choose to play the piano, sometimes for a more modern piece of music. From time to time, the organist will also choose to play this lovely little chamber organ that we're very fortunate to have acquired in the last few years. It was made by an Edinburgh maker by the name of James Bruce, and is quite an unusual instrument with a very lovely sound. If you're interested in organs, there's much more information on the St Nicholas Buccleuch website. I mentioned earlier that at 11 o'clock we always say the Creed. The Creed is an ancient text, a very short summary of the Christian faith. We stand to say it, but if you don't wish to say it, if perhaps you're a little unsure about it, please don't feel you have to. You can stand or stay seated as you wish and just listen to what the words are saying. I hope you will have found this brief introduction to what we do at St Nicholas Buccleuch helpful. I appreciate it can be a bit daunting coming to church for the first time, or perhaps coming back to church after a long time away. You don't have to remember everything, when to stand or sit. Nobody's going to be judging you for getting it wrong. We'll just be really glad that you're here and hope that you feel at home and get to know some people and perhaps come back at another time.